Welcome everyone to Oracle Database World. I'm Dennis Gray. This is OCI GoldenGate, Elastic Real-Time Data Integration Service. I am a product manager within the GoldenGate team. I lead the OCI GoldenGate service itself and some other products within the GoldenGate team. I'm not sure, but I've probably met a lot of you if you're here listening into the GoldenGate session, and it's a shame that we can't see each other face to face, but hopefully we will soon. I have a very large history in data integration. I've been doing data integration product management now for about 15 years, and also a long history before that within data integration, working directly with customers and services as well. So as we talk through that today, I can share some of my experiences from that time, as well as working directly with you guys in sessions like this and different sessions as well. So our mission at Oracle is really to help people see data in new ways and discover new insights and really unlock endless possibilities. And what better way than looking at a tool that provides a new way to be able to access data. So when we look at GoldenGate and the ability to replicate all of my changes and all of my events in real time, it gives us a new way to be able to interact with this data. So being able to discover new insights and actually unlock these endless possibilities overall. So today I really only have 30 minutes, just checking the time there, but 30 minutes and a pretty packed agenda, even though just 3 bullets here. But first I wanted to walk through the GoldenGate platform and level set all of this, but talk through what is GoldenGate and what does GoldenGate provide for us. And then we'll get into OCI GoldenGate, our newly released native managed service on GoldenGate. Then we'll also talk through our supported topologies and a couple other items on OCI GoldenGate, and then get into how we can help you and what you can go out and how you can familiarize yourself with OCI GoldenGate as well. So our vision within GoldenGate has 3 pillars. Being able to provide trusted ledger-based data integration, and really that may be something that you've never thought of, or you've never thought that you didn't have until you start thinking about your batch processes. And when we look at batch processes, the fact that we're always looking at a snapshot of data, we're comparing that snapshot of data to be able to see our changes, and then we're loading that into our analytical environment so we can do our analysis there. And so we're always looking at the way the data looked at a point in time, maybe how it looked today or yesterday or 15 hours ago, but it's always how data looked at a point in time. We know we can do things with slowly changing dimensions or other items, but that still only gives us a look at a point in time. So we really never know how we got to the point where we are in our business today. We don't know what decisions or what changes allowed us to get there. And that's why we want to move to this really trusted ledger-based data integration, and GoldenGate being able to provide that, because we can provide guaranteed consistency for all of your event and data changes. So any insert, update, or delete, we capture, we provide, and now that's there to be used within your analytics. So you can actually go and see, this is exactly how my data changed. This is when my data changed. This is who decided to make that decision. So we have that full ledger of every change that we had, instead of the legacy batch-driven approach where we're always looking at a snapshot of our data. So this allows a lot of new ways to look at our data and make better decisions on our data to help drive our business for the future. Also, moving away from this really monolithic ETL environment where all data goes through this really big ETL environment, and we have this hub and spoke model where data's coming in and data's going out. But now we want to be able to act on the data at the best location where that data is. So having this really service mesh, data mesh environment to allow data to be able to stream really from anywhere to anywhere, and we can act on that data and have that data available when we need it, at the speed that we need it. So being able to enable a decentralized streaming data mesh. And we have links on this at the end for you to really have a deep dive, and we have a very detailed YouTube YouTube video as well that would help you understand this and get more details on our strategy on the data mesh. And then also empowering great data products. And this, it does, but this doesn't mean making GoldenGate the best product out there. And we know that GoldenGate is the best data integration product, but this means making the best data products for your end users. Whoever's consuming the data attributes, the data products that you're building. So making sure that we can empower you as you're building your data integrations to be able to build great data products that your analysts, that your line of business users can actually use and trust. So it can be self-service. Very low code to be able to get to this data. We create this with curated change data capture. We provide continuous transformation language to be able to change and shape this data as it's streamed through. So we have it streamed through in our pipelines, secure data services, being able to provide all the analytics and event-driven dashboards that you would expect in your analytics. GoldenGate is a platform for real-time data fabrics. And if we look at the pillars and use cases that GoldenGate provides, so of course, we're the best for data replication and database replication. We always have been. And as we look at the ability for us to be able to ensure consistency from our source into our target and make sure that your high risk, your critical data is always available. So making sure that we have data high availability from any type of technology that we support into any type of technology that we support. Not only databases or not only Oracle. We know that we also want to enable low downtime migration. So making sure that data is always available and always there to be able to make decisions. We've always known we've been the best at transaction replication for OLTP, being able to provide change data capture, so insert, updates, deletes on Oracle, and now having that CDC stream there for service meshes. And then moving into data pipelines. So we know we can capture all these changes, we can deliver all these changes, but we also want to be able to change that data as it passes through within the stream. So we will have that very high fidelity change stream, and we want to be able to provide this as data ingest into our analytical environments, such as data lakes and data warehouses, and even data lake houses. But we also want to be able to prepare and enrich and shape this data as it moves through. And we do that with the continuous transformation language and data integration. So being able to move away from these batches, and we'll talk about that throughout this presentation, but moving away from these batch monolithic processes into continuous transformation on streams of data. And as we've moved that data and streaming that data, being able to now enable and allow the analytics on that data as it's being streamed through. So we can do time series analysis on the streams. We can do machine learning, geospatial. We can allow you to do alerting and this event processing as the data moves through. And then we also have all this is really out of the box. So we have this all built on these pre-built accelerators. So for us, it's just drag and drop in once we've created our connection up, and you are up and running within your dashboards, really in a matter of minutes. And then all this built on top of a layer of data governance. So we have our enterprise security that we do out of the box. So all data at rest, in motion, encrypted. Data verification, so we can make sure we have data validation, data verification. We can also do repair if we find out that the data happens to be out of sync. And then as well as metadata catalog. So we have the ability to manage data assets, provide data lineage, and the ability to manage policies on your data as well. When we look at the GoldenGate platform, it's really amazing at the breadth of sources and targets that we do support for your whole enterprise. And this is not just on-premise or in the Oracle Cloud, but this is multi-cloud. So wherever we need to run, being able to have the ability to reach out to a relational database in Azure for capture, or a big data target in AWS that we wanted to be able to load into. But we know that we're really good at relational to relational, but we also have the ability to do capture from non-relational sources. So Cassandra, or as we move into Kafka, we have the ability within different SaaS apps where they generate that change data stream and they push that out basically as a set of GoldenGate trail, and we can consume that data on the target within GoldenGate. And then also all of these targets that we can deliver real-time guaranteed transactions to based on those events from the sources. So of course, relational databases such as Oracle, SQL Server, DB2, Teradata, all of the cloud. So anywhere that these happen to be running or additional technologies in the cloud, the big data technologies, and we know that this is a quick moving and fast moving, but Kafka, all the object stores that are there to support to being able to replicate our data into, or your data into, all the NoSQL targets so that we support, so Kafka, MongoDB, and then providing that layer of stream analytics on top of this as well. So as the data is moving through, we have that ability to do the continuous transformation language as well, and the continuous transformation of that. The GoldenGate platform, one of the great things is all of the external validation that we have. So we know that when we look at the analysts and the feedback from the analysts, really great feedback. We've been a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for 12 years in a row. But really one of the items that we're most proud of is the Gartner Peer Insights, and the fact that this feedback comes from customers like you that have provided unsolicited feedback, and that feedback has been great. And if we look at our overall rating there, just to see how customers are giving this feedback, how they're using it, and how they're willing to share this with other customers out there as well. Another area that we're really proud of is the fact that we work really closely with you guys, with our customers and with the analysts, to help shape our products and our roadmap and our strategy to make sure that we're somewhat future-proofing your digital transformation as well. So common problems that we see and that I've seen throughout my career, but when working with enterprise data, and especially as we move into the cloud, is the fact that data is just unavailable. And what do we do when data is unavailable? Well, for one, we make it available. But if data is unavailable, whether it's planned, that we had a migration and we've had to take data offline from an app point of view, or we had to do hardware maintenance, something else that we had to do that was planned, or that it's unplanned. How do we ensure that we can make this critical data available, and that even if we do have an outage, that it's available somewhere and we can continue to have access to that data? How do we get away from having offline migrations, even if it's just a day to be able to do a migration, or possibly 72 hours, which maybe is not that much time over the weekend, but making sure that that data is available, that we can still run and drive our business based on that data. And then as we look at clouds today, having regional disaster. So we know that we need data across the world 24/7. And what happens if we don't have access in a certain locality or in a certain region? We want to make sure that we do have access to that data around the world. Another really large issue that I've seen throughout my career is just the fact that data is fragmented. We have many different copies of data in many different places within our enterprise. Maybe each department could have a separate data mart. And who built that data mart? How do they know that that data was governed? How do they tie that data back into their source? Maybe they're doing transformations in Excel and then loading data back into a data mart. How do we tie these out between each department or in between each line of business? More than likely you can't. And also having one just monolithic data warehouse, we all know how that's worked out as well. And then also, now we have multi-clouds. How did that data get into our second or third cloud? Did it pass through transformations or multiple hops? Or was it fanned out, or depending on the different integration methods that we used? And then we really are used to taking this analytical view of data, but we also need to think about operational view of how the data got there and what were the processes and how was this data touched along the way. And we need to make sure that we have a very good understanding of that operational view of our data. And then, of course, there's always the issue with stale data. And stale data can mean many different things. It can mean 30-day old data. We could mean I need to be able to have this data up to date within the last month to be able to run my reports. It could also mean that I need this data up to date in the last second. And that could be age data depending on what my use case would be. So making sure that we have data at the right time, at the right speed. And also we've talked about this, but moving away from these very complex batch jobs that take hours or days to be able to run, to be able to do this continuous transformation and analytics on this data as it's moving through. And all this building up to make sure that we can actually trust our analytics and guarantee that the data that we're using to run our business is actually correct, which how many businesses can do that today? So the requirements that we see coming out of this really are these requirements for our mission critical cloud and multi-cloud. And that first one, back to availability, but making sure that we have business continuity, making sure that we have 5 nines of data availability, making sure that when we are migrating an app or a database, that really there's just that time when we flip the switch. And so maybe that's 1 second or 30 seconds when we're pointing users from our non-migrated database or non-upgraded database into my upgraded database. And the users more than likely aren't even going to know it. today, using GoldenGate, we can do active-active when we're doing a migration, so we can make sure that we're testing and moving changes between both, and both are online at the same time. Our unupgraded and upgraded database, or migrated and non-migrated database. Also, being able to move from ETL, big batch jobs, into continuous integration, and continuous integration as we move from ground into the cloud or into multi-cloud, and being able to do continuous integration between all of these. Also, back to the idea of ledger-based integration, that we want to be able to do event-based. So we do not want to be going through and looking at all of the data that we have from yesterday if nothing changed. We want to be able to look at the inserts, the updates, deletes, and other events that we know would cause the need for us to be able to move data and look at data. And then having the ability to have this real-time replication and streaming of our data, so we can provide analytics on these streams, so we can provide real-time data warehouses, real-time data lakes, and real-time data lake houses built on this real-time replication technology of GoldenGate. GoldenGate itself, so we're the most trusted solution for data integration, and thousands of customers, and the customers that are calling GoldenGate their most trusted solution for data integration as well, because they're using GoldenGate to ensure that their most critical high-risk data is always available. And that's why we see 84% of the Fortune 100 customers are using GoldenGate. Again, they have very critical high-risk data that has to be available 100% of the time. Not just 5 nines, but really this data has to always be available, and available around the globe, and using GoldenGate to de-risk that and make sure that that data is available. And we've also talked about the fact that we really have worked very hard to work with our customers and to work with our analysts to ensure that we can really help with your digital transformation, with your real-time data, and within your data mesh and data fabric strategy as well. And that's why we're number one in that real-time data and data fabric strategy. When we look at Oracle GoldenGate, so very unique to GoldenGate, but something that we're really proud of, is the fact of when you research data replication tools, it's pretty quick to find out that GoldenGate itself, and not just for Oracle, but when we're looking at other databases as well, that or other technologies as well, is that we're the most powerful. So being able to scale and being able to deliver these high volume data replication needs of the largest customers in the world. And these largest customers that have petabytes of data and that are moving very large amounts of data, being able to trust and use GoldenGate to be able to run their business and make their data available. As we take a look at Oracle Cloud Infrastructure GoldenGate, our goal was to make GoldenGate be the most affordable data replication solution out there as well. So now not only enterprise customers that have the resources and the ability to be able to use GoldenGate can use it, but also these small to medium-sized customers as well. And as part of that, making it very easy to use. So very easy to create a replication service, very easy to create an extract and a replicat. Also very easy to manage and monitor this service. And like we said as well, it's fully managed. So being able to provide the backups and restores and other items that we'll get into as we get into more details of OCI GoldenGate. So we've talked a lot about the GoldenGate platform. So now we'll get into OCI GoldenGate, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure GoldenGate. And again, thousands of customers are trusting their high value, their most critical data with GoldenGate. So it only makes sense that we're seeing a lot of customers moving already to OCI GoldenGate. So OCI GoldenGate is built on GoldenGate 21C. It's a cloud native, fully managed service, meaning we take care of all of the management of the service itself. If you happen to have a disk drive go down or you have a memory issue, our development operations team is going to be alerted on that. And 24/7, they're going to be working to make sure that they recover, or they make sure that that service itself is healthy. We provide all the patching, the backup, the durability, the networking. That's all provided by Oracle as part of the fully managed service. We're truly elastic, so we can automatically scale, so we can turn on auto scaling, can be turned off, but similar to Autonomous Database, we set a number of base OCPUs, and we can automatically scale from that base OCPU up to 3 times that OCPU level. So if we're running at 3 OCPUs and you have a very large amount of change data that comes in, and OCI GoldenGate needs additional OCPUs, you're going to automatically have those if you have auto scale turned on, and the OCI GoldenGate is going to use those. You're only going to be billed for the consumption that you use, and as soon as it stops, there's no need for that consumption anymore. We're not going to bill you. That's not going to be metered, and we'll talk through more of that in detail. We also have the ability really to connect to anywhere from OCI GoldenGate, to on-premise, to third-party clouds, anywhere that we can physically connect, and we go back to the Oracle database 11.2.04 to allow customers and to help our customers migrate to Oracle 19 and above. We also support all of the differentiated use cases that we'd expect. So all of the core GoldenGate use cases that we have: active, real-time replication, real-time loading and ingestion into big data and data lakes, capture and delivery into the autonomous databases, so autonomous transaction processing into autonomous data warehouse. And we'll talk through that when we take a look at our LiveLabs. So anyone can go out today, they can go into the LiveLabs, they can reserve a workshop, and they can walk through in an hour, 2 hours of from start to finish of replicating in data from ATP to ADB. And then again, I mentioned databases can be really anywhere that we can physically connect. Most common use cases that we see, so on-premise to cloud, really important for us, being able to enable our customers to be able to move data into the cloud. So real-time capture and delivery, guaranteed transaction delivery from the ground into the cloud. Multi-region, so we talked about being able to have regional disasters and being able to account for that. This is where we need to be able to replicate data around the world and around regions. So having your data availability across those regions. And we'll talk more about that when we get into the data patterns. SaaS to OCI, so our SaaS teams, our SaaS apps themselves, so they actually certify and build out the support to be able to deliver a change data stream, a GoldenGate change data stream into GoldenGate. And they can do that today with GoldenGate, whether it's on-premise or marketplace. And now different teams within this, different SaaS teams, such as the retail team or the transportation management team, certify loading directly into OCI GoldenGate. So back to that affordability point of view and the ease of use, very easy to use OCI GoldenGate as that target. And again, multi-cloud. So wherever the supported technology for OCI GoldenGate is running, we can connect to it, whether it's in Azure or AWS or other third-party clouds. We can connect, and as part of that, we can connect and replicate. We could actually move it back to on-prem as well. So anywhere that we can physically connect to, we can replicate data to. One of the really great things, so we released back in April, and we were able to see how OCI GoldenGate would start changing the view of customers and analysts of what we can do. And this was really great feedback that we got from Wikibon and analysts. And this is actually on autonomous database, but we can see how the release of OCI GoldenGate was able to move autonomous database up in the rating. So really the fact that we're able to expand, and as Wikibon called this, a game changer, because we can expand use of OCI GoldenGate to enterprises of any size. So not just very large enterprises, but small and medium size. Now they have the affordability and the ease of use, so they don't have to have this team of DBAs that would be required with other data replication tools, but now they can use OCI GoldenGate. So OCI GoldenGate itself is a fully managed product or fully managed cloud service. And if we look at the evolution, so from left to right of GoldenGate, just having GoldenGate installed on premise, so you as a customer, you're in charge of the infrastructure management, you're in charge of the platform services, you're in charge of creating the extracts and replicats, you're in charge of the management, you're in charge and monitoring, you're in charge of all of that. We released GoldenGate on OCI Marketplace not too long ago, and that was really to help that part with the infrastructure management. So Oracle is in charge of storage, durability guarantees within the storage, the installation, the terraforming of that instance. But once it's up and running, you as a customer, you're responsible for all the platform services. Additional OS upgrades and patching to GoldenGate, all of the monitoring that you may need to do. Any of the scaling would require a change to the underlying marketplace image itself. And now we move into OCI GoldenGate, OCI GoldenGate being the fully managed service. And so that providing all of these platform services that we would expect out of the box. And so being able to have upgrade and patching, being able to have the automatic backup and restore, being able to have the metering and billing and the full elasticity. And all this is provided within our microservices experience in a very low code, really no code environment to be able to create your extracts, to be able to create your replicats, and being able to manage and monitoring the replication within OCI GoldenGate. So now let's talk through and walk through really quickly our supported topologies that we have within OCI GoldenGate. And if we look at this, we can see, I mentioned the fact that today we're Oracle to Oracle, but we will be supporting additional technologies. But the first one there is OCI DB to OCI DB. And this again is our one of the LiveLabs we have, being able to replicate from ATP to ADB. But this could be any source of target. It could be DBAS to ADW or DBAS to ATP. But being able to support that out of the box, as well as the other patterns here. So 2 and 2B are being able to replicate from on-premise. 3 and 3B are being able to replicate across regions. 4 is autonomous to on-prem. So we actually have the ability to replicate out of the cloud and move data back to on-premise. Of course, there's latency concerns and other things we need to think about, but we can do that. Number 5 is the ability for us to be able to have non-Oracle cloud. So we have GoldenGate on-premise or marketplace that's capturing data in these other clouds, or maybe we're doing remote capture from other clouds to be able to move the data. We talked about SaaS. We have the number 7, which is on-prem to on-prem, but we need to realize in number 7 is that data always moves through our tenancy and back. So this isn't necessarily a great use case for OCI GoldenGate, but it is possible. And then we have the ability to do non-Oracle DBs, non-Oracle targets, and as well as stream analytics by bringing in Marketplace as a point for a capture, or Marketplace, GoldenGate on Marketplace to deliver, or OCI GoldenGate Stream Analytics on the Marketplace to bring in stream analytics to delivery. We'll also be having 12 and 13, which is the ability for us to be able to do Cloud at Customer, so we can replicate data using Cloud at Customer without moving that data through the cloud. And then that evolves into 13 as well, which is 7, but really it's the use case that everyone here would want to be able to use, is the fact that we want to be able to allow you to replicate data on-premise without moving that data through the cloud. So we can start small and easily grow to massive scale. So we can start at 1 OCPU, which is 2 vCPUs at 67 cents an hour, and we can grow this all the way up to 24 OCPUs. And so at any point we could have auto scaling turned on, or we could change the shape with some downtime, but we can change the actual base shape as well. And that takes a couple of minutes for us to be able to change that. We also have our auto scaling. So the auto scaling is true pay for what you use. Very similar to autonomous database we mentioned. You choose a base size. So in this graph, we chose 4. We turned on auto scaling. That would allow us to go from 4 up to 12 as needed. If we never need to, we never would be charged for those additional 8 OCPUs. But as we can see, as we need to, we would automatically scale up. There would be no downtime. This would scale automatically, and you would be metered appropriately. As soon as you're not using that, that would go right back down, and you wouldn't be metered again. Metered until the next time that consumption goes above. So it's per second billing. Scaling happens online. There's no downtime. All of this that we talked about today is unique value that's only available from Oracle. So the elastic change data capture and replication, all of this on our fully managed service, cross-region, synchronized data across all of your regions, keeping all of your sites in sync, and then the best fit for your mission-critical data, mission-critical databases, whether it's on-premise, in third-party clouds, anywhere that it happens to be in our supported sources and targets. I mentioned this already, but here is a great place to go out and get more information and walk through a quick lab. So you can spend an hour or 2 hours on any of the 3 labs that we have available today. We have additional ones coming soon, but real easy to go out and reserve an instance of GoldenGate that it's going to spin up all the necessary resources, sources and targets, and all the data is going to be there, so you can learn how to replicate data from ATP to ADW or on-premise into GoldenGate. So from OCI GoldenGate, or from a non-OCI GoldenGate into OCI GoldenGate, or from OCI GoldenGate into non-OCI GoldenGate. And then we have additional ones coming soon. That's actually everything I wanted to go through today. I know it was quick. I wish we were all together face to face, and I'm really looking forward to when we can be together and to meet everyone again and see a lot of old friends. We do have an interactive service tour that's available. Please go out and take a quick look at that. Again, you can go through the LiveLabs, and then I've linked the data mesh tech paper and the data fabric strategy. And as well, if you Google the data fabric on YouTube, you see our YouTube series as well. So thanks for joining me today. I'm Dennis Gray. Please reach out to me if you have any questions. You can do it over LinkedIn. You can reach me directly at Oracle as well. But it's been great talking to you today. Thank you.